Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, and today it is Tag Tuesday. We're going to be doing a new tag today. This is a new tag, though it's probably been almost a month now since he first posted the video. But Lectin at Reading from the Depths created a new tag called the Philosophy of Reading tag, which is a very interesting tag, and I really love his prompts for this. I will link his video talking about this tag in the description because I highly recommend that you check it out and check out his channel. He's a great channel. I really love his stuff. He's very thoughtful. I really enjoy hearing his opinions and thoughts about the things that he's reading and his philosophy. He's a Buddhist monk, and he has a lot of interesting things to say. So yeah, this is the tag, and he tagged me in this among other folks. So I'm going to do this tag. It's only 4 prompts, but the prompts I think are very, very thought-provoking. So I'm going to do these prompts. So this is the Philosophy of Reading tag. The first prompt for this tag. Oh, and also he does want to share, he wants us to share a book related to or exemplifying each prompt for us in addition to answering the question. So I'm going to try to think of a book for each prompt. We'll see how I go with that. We will see how I go with that. So the first prompt is, what is your own personal philosophy of reading? How do you think about reading? What does reading mean to you? How does your reading life affect your non-reading life, etc., etc.? This is a really interesting question. I mean, I'm not sure that I have one specific coherent philosophy of reading, right? I don't know that I'm that logical about it. But in general, I would say that I read not just for entertainment. I think there's a lot of different ways that we can be entertained, and reading is one of them. But I also read to, I mean, in the broadest sense, I suppose, to learn things, right? Not just reading nonfiction about a specific topic to learn about that specific topic, but everything I read, for the most part, has things to say about people, about culture, maybe about specific people, specific cultures, maybe about the animal kingdom, or about our relationship to the world, our relationship to the environment, our relationships with each other, socio-political topics, historical topics, philosophical topics, religious topics. Every good piece of fiction is going to deal with a lot of different things that you have the potential, and you have the potential to take something away from that is more than simply being entertained. And that's a big part of the reason why I read. The learning of empathy and the ability to put you in the perspective of other people is another big one, right? There's lots of reasons, I think, to read. But yeah, so for me, reading is about the world. It's about understanding the world. It's about understanding humanity. It's about understanding myself better, and enriching myself intellectually, emotionally. Yeah, I would say enrichment, right? Again, in a very broad kind of sense, but yeah, it's hard to be very specific about it because I think there are a lot of reasons why people read. I know a lot of people will say escapism, though I think that's one of the few reasons that I would say is not particularly high on my list of reasons why I read. Personally, I find even a fully secondary world fantasy novel isn't so much escapist as it is teaching me things about our world as it exists. So yeah, but yeah, entertainment, enrichment, learning, empathy, emotional engagement. Emotional engagement is a big one for me. That's, I guess that's my philosophy of reading. A good book to exemplify my philosophy of reading. That's a good question. Can I be a real basic bitch and say The Lord of the Rings is a good book that exemplifies my reading philosophy? Because I think it does. I really do think it does. I think it's probably the main book that probably fully encapsulates my entire reading philosophy. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's emotionally engaging, it's intellectually stimulating. It's everything I could want in a book. This is why it's one of my favorite books of all time. Like, easily in my top 3 books of all time. So, probably Lord of the Rings. And the worldview that Tolkien espouses in Lord of the Rings. One which is about community. It's about working together. It's about understanding each other. It's about mercy. It's about redemption. It's about our relationship with our environment and being respectful of the world and overcoming our own weaknesses to be stronger together, that kind of thing. It's very much, I admire it and I aspire to a lot of the worldview espoused in The Lord of the Rings. So I think that one's probably the best answer for that for that prompt. The second prompt is, when did you first come to think of yourself as a reader? That's a hard one to answer. I've said before on this channel in previous videos that, like, I've always kind of been the reader of my family. I've been the family bookworm for basically ever. Since I was a small child, I have been an avid reader since I learned to read. Basically, as long as I've been able to pick up a book and hold it in front of my face, I've been a reader. So it's never not been part of my identity, quite frankly. I've always been that way. A good book to exemplify this, actually, I think. This is my very ancient copy of Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. It's so old, it's like dusty. It's dusty. But yeah, Little Women, I think, is probably a very good example of, like, a book that exemplifies the fact that I've been a reader for my whole life. I don't even remember the first time I read Little Women. I was a kid. And this is one of the books that I grew up reading. And I've always loved it since I was in grade school. And I think the importance of literature and storytelling is really heavily emphasized in Little Women, particularly with Jo, of course. She's a writer, an aspiring writer herself, and it's a semi-autobiographical novel, right? So yeah, this is, I think, a good one for this prompt. Prompt number 3 is, what are some goals or hopes that you have for your reading life? This one's a little bit tougher for me to respond to, if only because I am tempted to go either incredibly vague or incredibly specific with it. The incredibly vague answer to this question is just that I would like to be a well-rounded reader. I would like to explore more of the canon, but I would also like to explore more, like, books in translation and books in other genres that I don't read as often, things like that. That's a really vague answer. The incredibly specific answer to this is, I want to do a personal project where I read a lot more classic fantasy, like pre-Tolkien classic fantasy, like 19th and early 20th century classic fantasy, to explore the fantasy genre, to get a deeper understanding of the fantasy genre, and eventually maybe move on to like mid to late 20th century fantasy. I also do want to start working on some more specific projects in terms of the other sort of classics that I read. So like I've read a couple of John Steinbeck novels in the past few months. I'd like to read more John Steinbeck, right? So like in terms of, rather than just like picking out 12 random classics every year that I want to read, to be more mindful and to be more specific about what I want to do, right? Like reading more Victorian literature, reading more Russian literature, reading more, again, doing like maybe like a John Steinbeck reading project, or a Charles Dickens reading project, or a George Eliot reading project, or a Virginia Woolf reading project, something like that. And also maybe with my nonfiction reading, also get a little bit more specific about, like, I want to read more about early medieval England, or I want to read more about certain specific historical figures, or maybe I want to read Ron Chernow's recent biography of Mark Twain, but I also want to read some more stuff that Mark Twain wrote, more Mark Twain stuff, and maybe also want to, as part of that project, read James by Percival Everett. So like do something like that as well. So I want to do more of that kind of thing as like a personal reading project, not just to be more well-rounded as a reader, but to have the depth as well, right? Both the breadth and the depth. That's my goal, I guess. My hope is generally just to be a lifelong reader. Like I want to, and I also like to build up my personal home library a little bit more, and again, to continue to add to it in mindful and thoughtful ways that make sure that it's reflective of my taste, and that it's something that I'm proud of, and something that I can pass down to my family when I'm gone, that they can have this memory of me and have this part of me, right? Make sure my physical library is really reflective of who I am as a person and who I am as a reader. So that's another, I guess, goal, sort of long-term overall goal in my life that I sort of think about as I'm purchasing books as well, because I think book collecting is also a thing, right? Book collecting and book reading can be two separate things, and they're sometimes interrelated, but for me they are kind of interrelated. But definitely, as I'm collecting physical books, to be mindful of what I'm collecting and what I'm adding to my collection, and what my collection is looking like in terms of my own personal tastes, and that make sure that it reflects who I am as a person and a reader. So there you go. A book that exemplifies this. Ooh, that's a good question. I'm gonna go with another classic, I think. For instance, so I picked up this nice copy of Jane Eyre, in addition to the old paperback copy that I have had since I was a kid. I like having both of these. I don't intend to like get rid of this one now that I have this one. I like having both of them in my collection because, first and foremost, Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books of all time, and so it doesn't bother me that I have multiple copies of it because I love it. And also because this is a memory, right? This is a memory box of a book. I've had this for so long, and I've read this so many times, this particular copy of Jane Eyre, that it's me, right? Like, it's me. And this is like a nice collectible edition of it because this reflects the fact that, again, Jane Eyre is one of my favorite books of all time, and I wanted a pretty edition of it, an attractive edition of it, to sit on my shelf, that reflects my love for this book, right? So both of these are like important to me in different ways, and I want to keep both of them in my collection. And that's what I mean by my hope that my physical book collection is going to grow in a way that makes sense for me and that reflects my taste. and that is mindful and thoughtful as I add to it. And then the fourth and final prompt is, what is part of your current reading life right now that is important or exciting for you? I think a big part of it that is important or exciting to me right now is this channel, this YouTube channel, and my participation in Booktube as such. That is very exciting to me right now and very important. I like the connections that I'm making with other folks through this medium. I am enjoying sharing my reading life with other folks. I really like that. I'm having a good time with it, and I feel like I'm really on a roll and making some of those connections. So that is really important and exciting to me, like right this minute. And it's really opened up other interesting avenues where I can go with my reading, because again, most of my life I've been pretty, like, I just sort of read what I feel. I'm a mood reader, right? I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. I'm naturally a pretty strong mood reader, so I just kind of read what I want when I feel like it, which is fine. That's totally fine. But being on Booktube has made me a little bit more thoughtful and mindful, and has helped me think of some of these projects that I'm like, I'd really like to do a deeper dive on certain things. And the events and the challenges and the tags on Booktube have really helped me think a lot more about what I'm reading and why I'm reading it, and I really like that. That is very exciting for me. So yeah, I would say that that's really exciting. What is a book that encompasses that for me right now? I mean, look, I probably wouldn't have started reading Realm of the Elderlings if not for Booktube, and I can't say enough how much I am glad that I have started reading this. So there you go. Here's a book that encompasses that prompt for me. So that's that. And that's it. That's the prompts for this tag. The only other thing is, Lecton said that, there's no prompt here to tag others, but he does want other people to be tagged. So I will try to tag a few people in the description. So that is the philosophy of reading book tag. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. Thank you to Lecton for creating it and for tagging me in it. And yeah, that's all I've got today. Let me know what your philosophy is reading is in the comments below. And what are some of your goals and hopes for your reading life in the future? And yeah, other than that, if you like what you see, please like the video, subscribe if you want more, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.